When did you realize you were being catfished on a dating app? My banking app flashes fraud risk 10 minutes before my first date with Ava, and the alert says someone is trying to add a new card to my account. Then Ava texts, I'm outside, blue jacket, window table, don't make me wait. I am already inside. I can see the door. I can see the sidewalk. No blue jacket. My phone vibrates again. Ava, did you bring cash for the ride? My card is acting up. My banking app pings. New login detected. I type, I don't see you. Ava replies fast. I can see you. Stop pretending. A new notification slides down. Dating app. Safety check. Verify your match before meeting. I tap it. A selfie loads. It is Ava's profile face, holding up a napkin that says my name. My stomach drops because the napkin is on this exact coffee shop counter. I look up. A woman I have never seen walks straight toward my table and sits down like she owns the seat. She smiles at me and says, Spencer. My phone buzzes. Ava. Sit. Smile. We have to do this my way. Another buzz from an unknown number. Do not send money. Do not go outside. Screenshot everything. The woman across from me slides her phone forward, screen down like it is a secret. She says, please don't leave. If you leave, they win. My banking app pings again. Transaction attempt declined. I didn't attempt anything. Ava texts, if you embarrass me, I will message your job. I stare at the woman across from me. She says, my name is Molly, and the Ava you're texting isn't real. My phone buzzes one more time. Ava, last chance. Cash app now. I don't have Cash app open. I don't even have cash. I say, who is doing this? Molly's eyes flick to my phone, then to the door, then back to me. She says, not me, not like this. My phone buzzes again. Ava, open the link. Prove you're not wasting my time. A link appears. I don't tap it. Grant calls. I answer because Grant is the one person who will tell me the truth even if it hurts. Are you on the date? Grant says. I'm in a coffee shop. I say. A woman named Molly is sitting with me. Ava is texting me like she's watching me. Grant goes quiet. Then he says, that's exactly what I was afraid of. What do you mean? I say. Grant says, you told me Ava wouldn't video call. You told me she needed money for a ride. I told you to stop. My phone buzzes. Ava, tell your friend to stay out of it. Grant hears the vibration. He says, hang up, call your bank, get somewhere with people around you. Molly shakes her head. She says, don't go outside. I say, why? Molly takes a breath. She says, because they try to corner you where it's quiet. My banking app pings again. Password change requested. My throat tightens. I look at Molly. I look at my phone. I look at the door. Ava texts, stand up, walk out, blue jacket will meet you. My stomach turns. I don't move. Molly finally flips her phone over. The dating app is open. The profile name says Ava. The face is Paige. I say, that's not you. Molly says, I know. A message pops up on her screen while we both stare. Do not tell him my name. Molly's hands shake. She says, they're in the account right now. My phone buzzes. Ava, look at the window. I look. A photo appears in the chat. It is me sitting at this table holding my cup. Molly says, they're here. And that is the moment I stop worrying about being embarrassed and start worrying about getting home safe. My eyes keep drifting to the window because Ava said blue jacket, and because now I can't stop imagining a blue jacket as a person. My phone buzzes. Ava, blue jacket is outside. Wave. I don't wave. I keep my hands flat on the counter like I'm trying to prove I'm not shaking. Molly shifts beside me. She says, don't look like you're looking. That's impossible, I say. A man walks past the window. Blue jacket, baseball cap. He doesn't come in. He slows down like he's checking the room. Then he keeps walking. My stomach turns. I can't tell if he's real danger or just a guy who picked the worst color today. Ava texts, he sees you. Grant texts, do you see anyone outside? I type, blue jacket walked past. Grant replies, stay inside. Stay visible. If someone comes in, leave through the other door. My throat tightens. There isn't another door. Of course there isn't. Molly opens the dating app again. Her thumb hovers over the profile settings. She shows me a list labeled active sessions. There are more devices than her own. One is labeled as a new device from this morning. Molly says, that's not me. I say, can you log it out? Molly taps. A message pops up. Error. My chest tightens. Try again, I say. Molly tries again. Error. My phone buzzes. Yeah. Stop touching settings. You'll regret it. Molly's eyes squeeze shut. She says, that's how it started. They talk like they're in the room. I look at the barista, at the line of customers, at the normal life happening around us. Then I look back at Molly. I say, we leave, but we leave smart. Molly says, where? Bookstore cafe, I say. More cameras, more people, more exits. My phone buzzes. Ava, if you leave, you prove you're guilty. I stare at that. Guilty. That word is the hook. That's the lever. I say, they're not trying to date me. They're trying to frame me. Molly nods like she's been afraid to say it out loud. Yes, she says. Grant calls again. I answer. I'm moving, I say. Grant says, good, I'm 5 minutes out. I say, meet me at the bookstore cafe. Grant says, already turning. I end the call. I look at Molly. I say, walk with me. Stay calm. Don't look like you're running. Molly nods. We walk out with a crowd. Not alone. And I keep my head up like I belong in the daylight. My fingers go numb around my cup. I look at Molly. I look at her phone. I look at the chat where Ava is still typing. I say, stand up, walk with me. Molly blinks. Where? Inside, I say. Closer to the counter, where people can see us. Molly nods. We move slow and awkward like we're pretending this is normal. The barista looks up. I force a small smile. I order a water I don't want, just to have an excuse to be standing there. My phone buzzes. Ava, stop moving. Molly's phone buzzes too. A message appears on her screen. Sit him down now. Grant texts. Are you alone? I type back. No, Molly is here. Something is wrong. Grant replies, call me on video right now. I don't. Not because I don't trust Grant. Because I don't trust my phone. I say, Molly, tell me what you did. In 1 minute, no story, facts. Molly swallows. Her eyes are glossy, but she keeps them on me. She says, I made the profile. I used Paige's photos. I messaged people. I never met anyone. Then someone offered to take over messages. Then they started threatening me. Then they told me to set up a meeting with you. I stare at her. My mouth feels dry. I say, why Paige? Molly flinches. She says, because she looked real. Like she wouldn't get questioned. My chest tightens. I say, do you know Paige? Molly shakes her head. No, I found her photos online. My phone buzzes. First ask her for the email. Ask her for the code. If you don't, you lose your job. A new email notification hits at the same time. Subject line, password reset requested. Not for the dating app. For my work email. My skin goes cold. I say, my job right now. They're trying my job. Molly's face drains. She says, I didn't know they could do that. I say, how do they know where I work? Molly shakes her head again. I don't. My phone buzzes. Ava, Bryce is going to love this. My stomach drops. Bryce is a real person. A real coworker at the clinic. A name I never typed in the chat. I look at Molly. I say, they know my life. Molly's voice breaks. She says, they know mine too. Another message hits from the unknown number. If you go outside, you make it easy. Stay visible. Call your bank from a different phone if you can. I stare at that. I stare at Molly. I stare at the counter phone behind the barista. I say, I'm calling my bank. Molly nods fast. I step closer to the counter. I ask the barista if I can use the shop phone for a quick call because my line is dropping. I keep it simple. I keep my voice steady. The barista hesitates. Then she nods and points. I dial. My hands shake. I give my information. I tell them I did not request anything. I tell them to freeze everything. While I'm on hold, my phone keeps buzzing in my pocket like a trapped insect. I hang up with my accounts locked down and my breathing still tight. I go back to Molly. I say, show me the account. I want to to see what you see. Molly unlocks her phone. She opens the chat with me. And there it is. A message in the thread that never appeared on my phone. It says, send the money, or I send screenshots to your clinic. Molly's hands shake again. She says, they can hide messages from your side. They can delete after. I say, how? Molly shakes her head. I don't know, I just see it. Ava texts me again. Last chance. You're not as smart as you think. My phone buzzes with another email notification. A security code. A code I didn't request. I say, they're trying to get in right now. Molly nods, panicked. She says, this is why I came. I couldn't keep it secret. I stare at her. Anger rises. Then something else. A cold, clear focus. I say, we do two things. We protect my accounts, and we find Paige. Molly's eyes widen. You're going to tell her? Yes, I say. Molly swallows. She'll hate me. Probably, I say. But she deserves the truth. Molly nods like she accepts a sentence. My phone buzzes. Ava thought do not contact Paige. I screenshot it. I screenshot everything. Then another notification. A message request on a different app from Paige. It says, are you Spencer? Please answer. Someone is using my photos. I stare at the screen. My heart hammers. Molly's face tightens. She says, she found you. I type back. I'm Spencer. I'm at a coffee shop. The person who made the profile is here. I did not send money. I'm trying to fix this. Paige replies fast. Call me. Grant texts again. I'm driving there. I type. Don't. Meet me at my place in 20 minutes. Grant replies. Too late. I'm already moving. I call Paige. She answers on the first ring. Spencer, she says. Are you real? I'm real, I say. And I'm sorry. I didn't know. Paige says, tell me what happened right now. I keep it clean. Fraud alert. Meeting message. Molly. Hidden threats. Work email reset. Bryce's name. Paige goes quiet for one beat. Then she says, they used your face too. My throat tightens. What? Paige says, the fake profile posted a new verification photo this morning. It's not me. It's you. Your face. Holding a note. My stomach drops. I never took that photo. Paige says, I know. That's why I tracked you down. Your face is being dragged into this. Molly makes a small sound and covers her mouth. Paige keeps going. Someone messaged my cousin asking for money. She says, they used my photos in your name. They're mixing people. My skin crawls. Paige says, we need to document. Then we need to lock down your phone and your accounts. I swallow. I'm in public. I say, I'm not alone. Paige says, good. Stay visible. Do not go anywhere quiet. I look at Molly. I look at the cafe. I look at my phone. Paige says, do you have a friend with you? Grant. I say, he's coming. Good. Paige says, meet somewhere with cameras. Don't meet at your apartment yet. I glance at Molly. My apartment is close. My brain wants home. Paige's voice pulls me back. Okay, I say. Bookstore cafe, busy. Paige says, send me the address name, not the number. I do. Paige says, and Spencer. Yeah, you're going to feel embarrassed, she says. But this is bigger than embarrassment. I swallow. I know, I say. Paige says, I'm on my way. When I hang up, Molly stares at the table like it might open and swallow her. I say, Molly, you are going to tell Paige everything. Every email you used, every platform, every time you handed the account over. Molly nods fast. I will. My phone buzzes. Ava, if you bring Paige into this, you lose everything. I screenshot. Molly says, they're going to come after me. I say, they already are. That lands. Her shoulders drop. We leave the coffee shop together. Not close. Not friendly. Just moving with purpose. Outside, my phone buzzes again. Ava, walk faster. I don't. I keep a steady pace. I stay where people can see me. At the bookstore cafe, I pick a table in the center. Under bright lights. Near the register. Near a row of cameras I can see. Grant bursts in 5 minutes later like a storm. He spots me. His eyes land on Molly. His face twists. Please tell me that's Ava, he says. I shake my head. No, I say. Grant sits beside me, not across. He says, okay, one sentence. What's happening? I say, I got catfished, and now someone is trying to hijack my accounts and threaten my job. Grant exhales through his nose. Of course, he says, because normal would be too easy. My phone buzzes. Ava, your friend is loud. Grant leans in. Are they texting you right now? He says. I show him. Grant's jaw tightens. He looks at Molly. Did you do this? He asks. Molly's voice is small. I started it, she says. But someone else took it and turned it into this. Grant stares at her. Then he looks at me. Do you want me to leave her here? He asks. I look at Molly. I look at Grant. I look at the messages. I say not yet. Grant's eyes narrow. Why? Because she's the only bridge we have to the account, I say. Grant nods once. Okay, he says. But if she lies, I'm done. Molly nods. I won't, she says. Paige arrives 10 minutes later. I recognize her immediately. Not because she matches the photos perfectly. Because she looks like a real person. Tired, alert, focused. She walks straight to the table. Her eyes lock on Molly. Her grip tightens on her phone. Show me, Paige says. Molly hands over the phone. Paige stares at her own face on the profile. Then she scrolls. Her lips press together until they turn pale. She looks up at me. Are you Spencer? She asks again. I'm Spencer, I say. Paige nods once. Okay, she says. Then we do this like adults. Grant mutters, thank you. Paige looks at him. Who are you? She asks. Grant, he says. His friend. The one who told him it was a bad idea. Paige nods. Good, she says. We need someone like you. Grant looks surprised. Then pleased. Then he hides it. Paige looks back at Molly. Your name, she says. Molly. Molly says. Paige nods. Molly, Paige says. You stole my face. Molly flinches. I know. Paige says. You don't get to say you know like that fixes it. Molly's eyes fill. It doesn't, she says. I'm here to fix what I can. Paige takes a breath. She looks at me. She says, show me what they sent you. I hand her my phone. She scrolls through screenshots. Fraud alert. Threats. Bryce's name. The photo of me at the coffee shop. Paige's face tightens. They moved into your real life, she says. Grant nods. And into hers, he says. Paige looks at Molly again. How did you find my photos? She asks. Molly swallows. I saw them on a public page, she says. I saved them. I made the profile. Paige's eyes narrow. And then you gave the login to someone, she says. Molly nods. Yes. Paige says, who? I don't know their real name, Molly says. They use different names. They talked like a team. Paige exhales. Okay, she says. Then we stop trying to unmask them today. We focus on harm reduction. Grant leans in. Meaning, he says. Paige looks at both of us. Meaning we secure accounts, we warn people close to us, we report, and we control the story before they do, she says. My stomach twists. My job, I say. Paige nods. Your job, she says. That's the leverage. Grant says, he needs to tell his manager. I swallow. I hate that Grant is right. Paige says, not all details, just enough to protect yourself. Molly says, they said if I talked, they would message my boss. Paige looks at her. They already own your fear, she says. Stop renting it to them. Molly blinks, then nods. My phone buzzes. Paige is brave. Let's test it. Paige looks at the message. Her face tightens. Grant says, they know she's there. Paige shakes her head. They don't know, she says. They're guessing because we stopped responding like usual. My phone buzzes again. Ava, send 100, then we stop. Grant scoffs. No, he says. Paige says, do not engage. Screenshot. I do. Paige pulls out her own phone. I'm sending a warning to my close people. she says. Grant nods. Controlled narrative, he says again. Paige pauses and looks at him. You really did date marketing, she says. Grant says, never again. For 1 second, the tension loosens. For 1 second, we are just 3 people at a table. Then Molly's phone buzzes. A message pops up on her screen. If you don't fix this by midnight, your job learns the truth. Molly's eyes widen. She looks at Paige. She looks at me. She looks at Grant. Paige says, you are not paying. Molly swallows. I can't lose my job. Paige says, you might anyway, but paying makes it worse. Molly's shoulders shake. Grant looks at her, jaw tight. Then Grant says something I don't expect. Come with us, he says. We do this together. Molly stares at him. You would. Grant shrugs. I'm not doing it for you, he says. I'm doing it because Spencer is my friend, and I'm tired of watching people get played. Paige nods. That's the right energy, she says. We leave the bookstore cafe and head to my apartment, but we don't go straight in. Before we go upstairs, Grant makes one more call. He puts it on speaker. Nolan. Grant says, I need you. A man answers, tired. What happened? Grant says, Spencer got catfished, and now someone is trying to break into everything. We need help locking it down. Nolan goes quiet for a beat. Then he says, put Spencer on. I take the phone. Nolan, I say. I'm sorry, this is weird. Nolan says, don't apologize, answer questions. Do you still have your phone, your laptop, your email? Yes, I say. Nolan says, turn on airplane mode for a minute, right now. I do it. The silence from my phone feels like relief. Nolan says, good. Now listen, the goal is simple. Cut off access, reduce surfaces, document, do not chase the person. Paige says, that's what I've been saying. Nolan says, who is that? Paige, I say. Her photos were stolen. Nolan says, okay, Paige, I'm sorry. Spencer, do you have any old devices logged in? Owen has an old tablet, I say. Nolan says, power it down, then we change your email password from a clean device, not from the phone. I look at Paige. She nods. Grant says, can you come here? Nolan says, I can't, but I can walk you through it. Keep it boring. Boring is safe. Molly says, they won't let it be boring. Nolan says, they will if you stop feeding the urgency. That line sticks in my chest. Nolan says, one more thing. Check your email settings for forwarding. People miss that. Paige's eyes narrow. Good, she says. We didn't check that yet. Nolan says, do it. And if you see anything you didn't set, remove it. I swallow. Okay, I say. Nolan says, and Spencer. Yeah. If you get a message that mentions your work, Nolan says, assume they're trying social pressure. Warn your manager. Get ahead of it. I exhale. Already in motion, I say. Nolan says, good. Call me back if you hit something you don't understand. Grant says, thanks. Nolan says, don't thank me. Finish it. Grant walks the lobby first. Paige stays near other tenants. Molly stays in the open. Inside, Paige sets her phone on my table and says, laptop. Now. I open my laptop. Paige walks me through resets. Email first, then banking, then social accounts, then the dating app. The dating app account is locked. Paige's face hardens. They locked you out, she says, so you can't report inside. Grant says, of course they did. Paige says, fine, we report from outside. She drafts a report with screenshots. She keeps it factual. No drama. No extra details that help them. She shows me the draft. I nod. We submit. Then Paige looks at my phone again. Do you have another device signed into your email? She asks. I think. Owen has my old tablet, I say. Grant raises an eyebrow. Owen? He says. Roommate. I nod. Yeah. Paige says, call Owen. Tell him to turn it off right now. I call Owen. He answers. Owen, I say, I need you to do something. Turn off the tablet. Power it down. Now. Owen hesitates. What's going on? I'll explain later, I say, please. Owen says, okay. Then, Spencer, are you okay? I'm okay. I say, just do it. He does. Paige nods. Good, she says. Then my phone buzzes. A message from Bryce. Are you at home? Someone messaged me saying you needed help. My throat tightens. Grant leans in. Show me. I show him. Paige's face goes pale. They reached into your work circle, she says. I text Bryce back. That wasn't me. Don't click anything. Call me if you get more. Bryce replies. Okay, do you want me to tell anyone? My stomach twists. Paige says, yes, tell your manager before this gets weird. Grant nods. Truth first, he says. I exhale. I call my manager. I keep it simple. I say someone is impersonating me. I say someone is contacting coworkers. I say IT needs to lock down my account. My manager asks questions. I answer what I can. My manager tells me to come in early tomorrow. When I hang up, my hands shake. Paige watches me. Her eyes soften a fraction. That part feels awful, she says. Yeah, I say. It feels like confessing to a crime I didn't do. Paige nods. I know, she says. That's what they count on. Molly says, they count on shame. Paige looks at Molly. Yes, she says, they do. My phone buzzes again. Ava, I love how you brought the team together. Grant says, stop reading it. I say, I need to know what they're trying. Paige says, you need to know patterns, not every insult. Screenshot and move on. I do. Ava texts again. Tomorrow morning, your clinic, 9. My stomach drops. Paige leans in. Your clinic opens at 9, she says. Yes, I say. Grant's face hardens. Okay, he says. Now it's intimidation. Paige shakes her head. It could be a guess, she says, but we treat it as real. My stomach turns. Molly says, they like deadlines midnight, 9. They like clocks. Paige's eyes narrow. Because clocks make people panic, she says. Grant says, so what's the plan? Paige takes a breath. She says, we sleep in shifts. We keep devices off when not needed. We tell the people closest to us to ignore unknown messages. We walk into the clinic tomorrow with a simple statement and evidence. I stare at her. You talk like you've done this before, I say. Paige's expression tightens. I haven't, she says, but I've been ignored before. I'm not doing that again. That lands. Because I know that feeling too. The night is a blur of small actions. Changing passwords. Turning on two-factor. Writing down backup codes. Deleting old logins. Checking for weird forwarding rules. Paige stays focused. Grant stays protective. Molly stays quiet like she's scared to breathe wrong. At midnight, Molly's phone buzzes again. A message. Too late. Molly flinches. She looks at Paige. Paige says, show me. Molly turns the screen. A screenshot of Molly's workplace email. A draft message. A subject line that says urgent. No send confirmation. Just a threat. Paige exhales. They're bluffing, she says. Or they're trying to make you imagine it already happened. Molly shakes. I can't, she says. Grant says, sit down. He pushes a chair toward her. Molly sits. Her hands clamp around her own wrists like that will keep her together. Paige looks at me. Tomorrow, she says, you do not walk into your clinic alone. I nod. I won't, I say. Grant says, I'm coming. Paige says, and I'm coming. I stare at her. You don't have to, I say. Paige meets my eyes. Yes, she says, I do. My chest tightens for a different reason. Not fear. Something warmer. Something like being backed up by someone who doesn't even owe me. The next morning, I get to the clinic early. Grant is in the passenger seat. Paige is in the back seat. Molly is not with us. Paige insisted Molly meet her own boss in person first thing, with screenshots, before walking into my mess. As we park, my phone buzzes. Ava, smile for the cameras. Grant's jaw tightens. Paige's face goes still. I screenshot it. I breathe in. I walk inside. My manager is already there. My manager pulls me into an office. No names, just the weight of a closed door. I say, someone is impersonating me online. They contacted Bryce. They tried to reset my accounts. I have screenshots. I hand over my phone. My manager scrolls. My manager's face tightens. My manager says, it is on the way. Ide arrives, and for once it isn't a faceless voice on a helpline. It's Mason, a guy I've waved at in the hallway 100 times. He walks in with a laptop and a calm expression that makes the room feel smaller and safer. Mason says, Spencer, I'm sorry, let's take this step by step. My manager says, can you confirm if his account was accessed? Mason nods. I can confirm attempts, he says. I can confirm whether anything succeeded. I can also tighten controls. Paige leans forward. I have screenshots, she says, and the fake profile. Mason holds out his hand. Send them, he says. As I forward everything, another person enters. Julian. He works with compliance. I've seen him run trainings with a smile that makes everything sound simple. Today, Julian doesn't smile. Julian says, I'm here because anything involving impersonation and patient-facing staff becomes a risk event. Spencer, thank you for reporting early. My throat tightens. It feels strange to be thanked while my stomach is falling apart. Julian looks at Paige. And you're the image owner, he says. Paige nods. Yes, she says. Julian says, okay, we are going to document this as identity misuse and attempted extortion. We are also going to protect Spencer's professional standing by creating a clear record that he reported and cooperated. Grant nods like he approves of the word record. Mason turns his screen toward my manager. I'm seeing multiple password reset attempts, he says. None successful. There were also failed sign-in attempts. I'm going to force a reset and add additional verification. My manager exhales. Do it, my manager says. Mason looks at me. Spencer, he says, this will log you out of everything. You'll need to set it back up. It's annoying. Annoying is fine, I say. Julian says, while Mason does that, I need to ask a direct question. I brace. Julian says, did you share any patient information with the person pretending to be Ava? No, I say fast. Never. Julian studies my face. Then he nods. Good, he says. Keep it that way, no matter what they threaten. Paige says, he didn't. Grant says, he's gullible, not reckless. I glare at Grant again. Julian looks at me. Spencer, he says, for today we're moving you to admin tasks. Not as punishment, as insulation. I want you out of direct interaction until we're sure there's no risk. My chest tightens, but the word insulation helps. I nod. Okay, I say. Julian continues. And by close of business, we need a concise summary, a set of screenshots, and a timeline. If an accusation comes in, we respond with facts, not panic. A timeline. A clock. Another deadline. I nod again. Okay, I say. Mason says, I'll also flag any inbound messages that look suspicious and route them to one point. We'll tell staff to verify anything that claims to be you. My manager nods. Thank you, my manager says. When Mason and Julian step out, Paige looks at me. You're doing it, she says. It doesn't feel like doing it, I say. Paige says, it feels like falling, but you're still standing. My manager says, do you have any idea who is doing this? I say, not really. I met the person who started the fake profile last night. Her name is Molly, but someone else took over. My manager looks up. Do we need to call anyone? Paige speaks from the chair in the corner. I'm the person whose photos were stolen, she says. My name is Paige. I can show you the profile. My manager looks at Paige, then at me, then at Grant. Grant says, I'm just here to make sure Spencer doesn't do something dumb. My manager exhales. Okay, my manager says, show me. Paige pulls up the screenshots, the profile, the messages, the threats. My manager says, we are going to document this. You did the right thing telling us early. Relief hits me so hard my eyes sting. Then my manager says, but we have to treat this seriously. Patient privacy, security, reputation. My stomach twists. I nod. I know, I say. My manager says, we are putting you on admin tasks today. No direct patient contact until IT clears your accounts. It is not a suspension, but it feels like punishment. Paige watches my face. Grant shifts beside me. I say, okay, even though my chest aches. I exhale. But the relief is short, because by lunch a complaint email hits the clinic inbox. Not from a patient, from a stranger. It says I harassed her. It uses Paige's photos. It claims I demanded money. My manager calls me back in. After the complaint email lands, the mood in the hallway changes. Not openly. No one points or laughs. It's worse than that. People get careful. When I step out to grab water, Trevor is by the break room door. Trevor is friendly most days. The kind of guy who remembers everyone's coffee order and never makes a big deal of it. Today he doesn't smile. He says, Spencer, can I ask you something? My chest tightens. Yeah, I say. Trevor keeps his voice low. Did you actually message someone for money? He asks. The question hits like a slap because it's reasonable. Because that is exactly what the complaint claims. I take a breath. No, I say. And I hate that you even have to ask. Trevor studies my face. Then he nods once. Okay, he says. I believe you. Relief hits me so hard my knees feel loose. Trevor adds, but people are going to talk. Not because they're cruel, because they're scared. I know, I say. Trevor looks down at his phone. He says, someone tried to add me on the app with Paige's photo. Same face. Different name. I ignored it. Then I saw the email. My stomach drops. They're phishing here too, I say. Trevor nods. What do you want me to do? He asks. I could say nothing. I could try to keep it quiet. That is what old me would do. But Paige's voice is in my head. We're done with silence. I say, send the screenshot to my manager and to IT. And don't reply to anyone who asks you about it. Just tell them to talk to management. Trevor nods. Done, he says. He pauses. Then he says, Spencer, I'm sorry this is happening. Me too, I say. When Trevor walks away, I lean against the wall for a second and let my eyes close. I feel the shame rise again. Not because I did something wrong, because I can't control what other people think. Paige is at the end of the hall with Grant. She watches me like she can see the panic through my skin. When I get back to the office, Paige says, who was that? Trevor, I say. He asked if it was true. Paige's expression softens. And, she says, and I told him the truth, I say. Paige nods. That's the choice, she says. Every time. Truth or fear. My manager's face is tight. My manager says, we just got this. My skin goes cold. Paige reads it and goes pale. That's my face, she says. That's not me. My manager says, I know, but it's in writing. We have to respond. Grant mutters, this is what they wanted. My manager says, we need a statement today. A ticking clock. Not midnight. Not 9. Today. My manager says, by close of business. My stomach turns. Paige looks at me. Her eyes are steady. We respond with truth, she says. Grant says, and proof. My manager nods. Proof, my manager says. Send everything. So we do. We print screenshots. We send a timeline. We include the fraud alert. We include the lockouts. We include Bryce's message. We include the threat about my clinic at 9. My manager forwards it to legal and compliance. My manager tells me to sit tight. I hate that phrase. It makes me feel powerless. So I don't just sit. I build. On my lunch break, Paige and I sit in my car and create a simple one-page statement. No drama. No extra. Just facts. Someone stole Paige's photos. Someone used them to create a fake profile. Someone used my face without permission to verify. Someone attempted to extort money and threaten reputations. We are reporting. We are documenting. We are not paying. Paige sends it to her close contacts too. So they hear it from her first. Not from a fake account. Grant sends a similar message to our friend group. He keeps it short. Do not click links. Call Spencer if you're unsure. The afternoon drags. Every time my phone buzzes, my stomach flips. Ava keeps messaging. Sometimes threats. Sometimes fake apologies. Ava, I didn't want to do do this to you. Ava, we can stop if you cooperate. Oh, wait, you're making Paige look bad. Paige doesn't flinch anymore. She just says, screenshot. Then at 3, Bryce texts again. Someone just called the clinic asking for you. They used your voice. My skin goes cold. They used my voice. Grant reads it and shakes his head. They're escalating. Paige says, that might be a lie to make you imagine it, but my front desk confirms it. A call came in. The caller asked for me. The caller sounded like a man. The caller hung up when asked for details. My manager looks at me. My manager says, we're moving your phone number off public directories. My manager says, we're notifying staff to route all suspicious calls to one point. My manager says, you're not alone in this. Another small relief. A breath. Then the second wave hits. Paige's phone starts buzzing with messages. Strangers. Angry. Confused. One message says, you scammed my brother. Another says, I sent money. Give it back. Paige's hands shake. She sets her phone down like it's poison. Grant looks at her. You okay? He asks. Paige takes a breath. She says, no, but I'm here. That line hits me because I want to run. I want to hide. And Paige is still here taking it head on. After work, we meet at my apartment again. Grant stays. Paige stays. Molly arrives late, eyes swollen, carrying a folder like she's bringing evidence to court. She sits down and says, I told my boss. Paige looks at her. And Molly says, my boss was mad. My boss didn't fire me. My boss said I need help. Paige nods once. Good, she says. Now give us what you have. Molly slides the folder across the table. Inside are printed screenshots, email threads, a message that offered to help manage her account, a list of times the handler demanded she push for money, a note that says if you don't, we leak your photos. No photos in the folder. Just a threat. Paige reads. Her face goes tight. That's coercion, she says. Molly nods. I know, she says. I didn't want to be in it anymore, but I didn't know how to leave. Grant looks at Molly. Why start, he says. Molly's voice is flat now. Tired. I was lonely, she says. I was tired of being ignored. I thought if I was Paige, people would finally talk to me. Paige's jaw tightens. Molly looks at Paige and says, I'm sorry. Paige doesn't answer right away. She stares at the table. Then she says, sorry doesn't give me my face back. Molly nods. I know, she says. An emotional beat. Not forgiveness. Just truth. Then my phone buzzes again. Ava. We know where Owen lives. My chest tightens. Owen is my roommate, and that means they know my building. Grant swears. Paige's face goes pale. Molly says, they do that. They pick a name you care about. Paige looks at me. Call Owen, she says. I call Owen. He answers. Owen, I say. Don't open your door for anyone tonight. Don't click any links. If someone calls you claiming to be me, hang up and call me back. Owen is quiet. Then he says, what is happening? I say, I'll explain. Just do it. Owen says, okay. When I hang up, my hands are shaking again. Grant says, we should go to your place and stay there. Paige says, or you stay somewhere else tonight. I hate that she's right. I hate that the scam has made me consider leaving my own home. Molly looks at Paige. What do I do? She asks. Paige says, you report with us. Grant nods. Police, he says. Molly freezes. No, she says. They'll blame me. Paige looks at her. They should, she says. A little. Molly flinches. Paige keeps going. But you're not the only one at fault. And you're not safe for hiding. Molly swallows. Okay, she says. We go together. Not dramatic. Just 4 people walking into a station with a folder and a phone full of screenshots. We make a report. We keep it factual. We don't ask for miracles. We ask for documentation. The officer listens. Writes. Asks for screenshots. We offer them. When we walk out, the sky is dark. My body feels hollow. But I also feel lighter because we did something real. Back at my apartment, Grant makes food because he can't handle silence. Paige sits at my table and keeps working through reports. Molly sits on the couch and stares at the floor like it's the only safe place. At one point, Paige looks up at me and says, can I ask you something? Yeah, I say. Why did you keep talking to Ava? Paige says. Before all this, what did you like? The question feels like a spotlight, but it's a fair one. I take a breath. I liked feeling chosen, I say. I liked feeling like someone was excited to hear from me. Paige nods slowly. That makes sense, she says, and it's not stupid. Grant says, it was a little stupid. I glare at him. Grant holds up his hands. I'm saying it because I love you, he says. Not because I'm judging you. Paige looks at Grant, then back at me. She says, the danger is that scammers mimic what you want most. That lands hard. Molly says, they mimicked what I wanted to. Paige looks at her. What? Paige says. Molly swallows. They told me I was smart. Molly says. They told me I was running a business. They made me feel like my loneliness was a skill. Paige's face tightens. That's how they work, she says. My phone buzzes again. Ava, your report won't matter. Grant says, stop. I screenshot. I put my phone face down. Paige says, good, now sleep. I laugh once dry. Sleep, I say. Paige says, you need a brain tomorrow. Grant says, I'll take first watch. I look at him. You don't have to, I say. Grant shrugs. I'm already here, he says. Paige says, I'll take second. Molly says, I can take none. I don't deserve it. Paige looks at her. You don't get to punish yourself by being useless. Paige says, if you want redemption, you show up. Molly nods. Okay, she says. That night I sleep in short pieces. Every time I wake, I check my phone. New messages, new attempts, new threats, but also new confirmations. Accounts secured. Reports filed. Friends warned. The next day, the dating app finally responds. Not a fix, but a human message. They ask for evidence. They ask for links. They ask for the profile. Paige sends everything. So do I. So does Molly. By the end of the week, the Ava profile disappears. Paige texts me a screenshot. User not found. My chest loosens. Then my phone buzzes. A new message request. A new account. A new photo of Paige's face. A new name. Not Ava this time. Kelsey. I stare at it. My stomach drops. Grant reads over my shoulder. They're back, he says. Paige's face goes tight. Of course they are, she says. Molly looks like she might break. I can't, she says. Paige looks at her. You can, Paige says. Because you already did the hardest part. You stopped. I stare at the new profile. Kelsey. A name from my own name bank. A name I used in my own story now. And it feels like the scam is mocking me. Paige says, we don't chase, we block, we report, we warn again. Grant says, and we change the play. What play? I ask. Paige looks at me. The play where you stay quiet because you're embarrassed, she says. We're done with that. So we post one controlled message. Not a viral rant. Not a drama thread. A calm statement on my account. A calm statement on Paige's. We pin it. We keep comments limited. We tell people what to do if they've been contacted. It's not glamorous. It's not satisfying. But it's clean. Within hours, Paige gets messages from people saying, thank you. This happened to me. I get messages too. People I barely know. People who are quiet victims. One of them is Brooke. She sends a screenshot of the fake Paige profile that tried to message her last month. She says she ignored it, but she always wondered. Another is Tatum. She says her brother sent money to someone using Paige's photos. Then Mallory messages Paige. She doesn't say hello. She just sends a screenshot of the fake profile and writes, is this you? Paige answers with our pinned statement. Mallory replies, thank you, I almost sent money last week. Paige stares at that. Her shoulders lift and drop like she's trying to breathe past anger. Then Sienna calls Paige. I can hear Sienna's voice through Paige's speaker, tight with worry. Sienna says, someone is sending people your photo saying you stole from them. Paige closes her eyes. I know, she says, I'm handling it. Sienna says, do you need me to do anything? Paige opens her eyes and looks at me. Then she says, yes, if anyone asks, tell them the truth and send them the statement. No arguing, no drama. Sienna says, okay. When the call ends, Paige sits back. For the first time since I met her, her hands tremble. I say, you don't have to be strong every second. Paige lets out a breath. breath. I know, she says, but it's hard to stop. Grant says, strength is not the same as silence. Paige looks at him. You're annoying, she says. Grant smiles. Correct, he says. A small relief again. Then another buzz. A message lands on my phone from someone I don't recognize. It says, you should be fired. My stomach drops. Paige leans in. Show me, she says. I show her. Paige takes a screenshot. Then she says, that's why we keep it calm. This is not about you. It's about control. Molly sits forward. I can talk to them, she says. I can tell them it was me. Paige shakes her head. No, she says. That makes it messy. That gives them more to twist. Molly nods, crushed. Okay, she says. Paige looks at Molly. And Molly, she adds, you can still do something useful. You can report every account you see. You can tell the platforms you used what happened. You can stop this pattern from spreading. Molly nods, more steady now. I will, she says. That night, I get one more message from Ava. Not a threat, a question. Ava, do you think Paige likes you? I stare at it. It's so human that it makes my skin crawl. Paige sees my face. What? She asks. I show her. Paige's lips press together. They're trying to shake your focus, she says. Grant says block. I block. And that is the first time all week my phone feels like it belongs to me again. Paige's hands shake as she reads, but her eyes don't look lost now. They look steady, like she has direction. She says, this is why we do it. Grant says, this is why we don't hide. Molly says, this is why I'm never doing it again. Weeks pass, then a month. The attempts fade. Not gone, but reduced. Like the handler moved on to easier targets. I get cleared at work fully. No suspicion. No shadow. My manager thanks me again for being proactive. Bryce texts me one night, proud of you. I stare at that for a long time, because I didn't feel proud for weeks. I felt foolish. I felt exposed. I felt like I deserved to be laughed at. But then I remember what Paige said. Scammers mimic what you want most. That's not a character flaw. That's being human. Paige and I keep talking. Not constantly. Not like a romance movie. Slow. Real. Sometimes it's about updates. Sometimes it's about normal life. One day Paige texts me a photo. It's a plain picture of a coffee cup. No face. No location tag. Just a cup. She writes, I can sit in a cafe again without shaking. I stare at that. My throat tightens. I text back, I'm glad. Paige replies, me too. A week later, Paige asks if I want to meet for coffee. A normal coffee. No scam. No folder. No screenshots. Grant hears about it and says, finally, a real date. I say, not a date. Grant says, sure. At the cafe, Paige sits across from me. She looks tired, but lighter. Like she's not carrying all of it alone anymore. She says, I hate that I met you through this. I nod. Me too, I say. Paige says, but I'm also glad you didn't disappear. I swallow. I almost did, I admit. Paige tilts her head. When? She asks. I take a breath. Right after I realized you weren't real, I say. Not you, Ava, the idea. I wanted to run because I felt stupid. Paige nods. That's normal, she says. I say, it didn't feel normal. It felt like I failed a basic test. Paige's eyes hold mine. You didn't fail, she says. You adapted. That's different. We sit in a quiet moment. Not awkward, just real. Paige says, can I tell you something? Yeah, I say. Paige says, when I saw your face on that fake verification photo, I felt sick. Not because you were part of it, because I realized they can pull anyone into it. I nod. That's what scared me too, I say. Paige says, and then you showed up and you didn't get defensive. You didn't blame me. You didn't minimize it. I swallow. I didn't know what else to do, I say. Paige smiles a little. You did the right thing, she says. My chest warms. Paige looks down at her cup, then back at me. She says, do you want to go out sometime, like a real date, slow, no pressure? The word slow feels like safety now. Not rejection. Not delay. Just care. I take a breath. Yes, I say. Slow sounds perfect. Paige nods. Okay, she says. Then slow. Grant texts me while I'm still sitting there. So, date. I type, slow. Grant replies, proud. Also tell her I approve. I don't show Paige that part. Not yet. As we stand to leave, Paige says, one more thing. What? I say. Paige says, if you ever feel lonely again, don't hand it to a stranger. Hand it to someone real. I swallow. Okay, I say. Paige smiles, small and steady. Good, she says. Later that night, I sit on my couch and think about the question everyone asks. When did you realize you were being catfished? And the honest answer is not when Molly sat down. Not even when the face didn't match. I realized it when Ava stopped talking like a person and started talking like leverage. When every message became a push, a deadline, a threat, a demand. That's the difference. Real people can disappoint you. Scammers only want to move you. So if you're watching this and you're wondering if your gut is overreacting, tell me this. What was the first message that made you feel trapped?